Okay, so I just pasted the rotate value from the previous projection into the Y. I need to grab the Z one, copy, paste, press enter. Okay, now they've both been done the same. Doesn't match up as well on the inside of the leg, so I'm going to tweak it. All I'm using is I'm selecting the attribute by name, and then I'm middle mouse clicking and dragging left and right, just little tiny bits. Okay, I think that looks good. I'm going to switch back to my projection tool by pressing T. Move this up into its own space for now. Okay, I'm going to go to my UV mode. Select one. And I already know that this is going to be a problem. It was a problem on the previous shell, so this one most likely will be also. Go ahead and pull these out a little bit. And this one, again, I'm looking at this area on the model. I'm just going to straighten these out into a line right here. Okay. Now, to shell border, shift drag over the entire thing. Unfold. There we go. That looks pretty good. Got one right here. Any bad news? Let's straighten that out and give it some texture space. This one's a little squampus. Okay. Now, when you're modeling, if you make sure that the faces are all square-ish, it makes laying out the UVs easier, because you can know if they're square-ish over here, then you've done your job. And you can tell I've got a few that are not. But I've got a face right here that's not either. So that's where that is. But I could clean that up a little better. Straighten that out. And you can be extremely nitpicky if you want to, but I'm going to call that good enough. Okay, so on the leg, I may want this to be one piece, and a lot of times you do. You cut it apart just so you can glue it back together in the end. So if I control right click and select this entire shell, actually let me do this one down here. Control right click to shell. I'm going to move this up. I'm going to switch to my scaling tool and I'm going to invert it. Kind of move it into position here. Use my rotate tool even and do the best I can to get these two sort of lined up and even cross them over just a tiny bit. Okay, now I can go into edge mode and I can select these edges. So you'll see a little brown line. And now if I can shift right click, I can sew those together. And now it's back to a single piece. And so I won't have what's called a seam there anymore. And that'll be easier to texture. It would be nicer if I could do that on the top of the leg rather than the bottom. But the top's got the foot coming out and it makes it a little bit more difficult. So you can be creative on how you accomplish this. I just wanted to make sure you know that this is a method. Okay, and then in the end, after all this is done, the rest of the geometry is really self-explanatory, just a bunch of spikes on this particular character. This is the hard part. So you can grab all these individual shells. Let's go to shell, and we actually want to grab all of them at the same time because they're all the same scale. And we want to keep them the same scale. We want to scale them down enough so that they can all fit in this darker gray square. And so we do something like this. And the reason you want to do this, best you can anyhow, is so that you can use your pixels wisely on your texture, because you only have a certain number of pixels that fit in this space that you can color on in Photoshop or whatever. And if you don't take up much area in here with those pixels, then you don't have many pixels being devoted to your model, to your mesh. A lot of that will make more sense here in a little bit. So what I'm really trying to think of is, I need to make these into a square somehow. And it doesn't matter if I rotate them or what have you. Go that, rotate it. Put it in here. That back down. Okay, so let's say that's pretty good. Now I want to grab all of them and get them all to fit. The scaling tool is really finicky in UV Texture Editor, so you know. I want to make sure they all fit in this space here. Okay, now that is 100% done. So after this, I want to delete history on it and then save my work. And all that projection stuff goes away. I'd want to duplicate it. And mirror it. And merge these two pieces together. Edit mesh, combine. And then I've got a hole right here I need to fill up. Before I do that, I'm going to go to Edge Mode. Go switch my view to my orthogonal front. Need to get those spikes back out of the way, so let's go to my selection. Isolate select. And if I press Control Spacebar, it'll